Okay, so this is probably gonna be the final video, I hope, because I really got to go to sleep. Um, Very professional of me. Okay, so I want to just show you how to do a render. Um, because what now at this point, this is like you could take a screen capture of this thing. So for example, if I had my ice cream cone and I said I like this, I want to take a picture to show my uncle Moishe or something like that. To do that, I would go into this view and I go viewport render image, and I press this. It's going to take a couple seconds, and there I actually have a picture of my ice cream cone, and I can save this as Uncle Moishi, Uncle Moishi. Great, and I'll have some kind of a render of my ice cream cone. Let me put and if I want to, I've put the world opacity back. And imagine I want my ice cream cone to be in some kind of forest floating. Well, I'll do the same thing, and I'll have my Uncle Moisha now has a picture of a floating ice cream cone in some kind of a park or something like that. I don't know what this place is. But so let me explain to you what this whole background thing is. The background here, this forest thing, is called an HDRI, which is a high resolution image. It's like the ice cream cone is in like a sphere, like one of those, if you've been to like one of those spheres where you look around and there's a movie projecting everywhere and you're like, wow, it's like that. But the lighting is also coming from the sphere. So in the picture, there is, sunlight coming through here and it's darker there. And that lighting is actually what's lighting the ice cream cone. So it's a background and also a lighting source. So if I make the lighting source bigger, you see it's brighter. And if I rotate this, the lighting changes because the lighting in the picture was different when I move around the sphere. So this was a more the lighting is coming from the back. Now it's going wrapping around the sphere. Now it's more from the front, and it's changing. So I can change the light direction depending on how I rotate this image. It's very useful because it's very easy to get good realistic lighting with these things called HDRIs. And then these are built into Blender. So I have a bunch of choices of a couple of choices. I have this, which is like some kind of street scene, and it has like kind of a washed out lighting. This, I don't know, it looks like some guy's garage or something, and it's more warm lighting. I have the forest. I have some a nighttime scene in case your ice cream cone is up to no good on the streets at night. This is like the romantic setting for your ice cream cone. Anyway, I'm going to put it back to this sort of forest because that's kind of the forest seems to be the most sort of neutral kind of lighting. And this is all very nice. Now the problem is this. The real renders in Blender, the good quality pictures come from this last tab here. And you notice that as soon as this tab, there's no lighting. And so this thing didn't actually transmit to this. So this is the actual real rendering engine. This is the better quality picture. So if I'm going like here and I say, oh, I like this lighting, and I actually go to this button over here that says render, click that, and I press render image. And then you wait, and it might take a long time. And then you have this image that's going to look very dark. First of all, it might take a minute. You're like, what is going on there? Why is it so dark? It's what happened to all the lights that I had there? There's some kind of a light, but why is it dark? And where did this camera angle come from? And what the heck is going on? So there's a bunch of things we have to kind of be aware of. So in Blender, when you press this button, when you actually render something, you're rendering it from the camera view. And to know what the camera view is, it's this. So in this case, the camera is looking at it from the top. Now, how do you actually set the camera view? Well, if you have a number pad like I do, it's very easy. But we want to do it by basically angling the camera to something that you like and then setting the camera there. That's obviously the most intuitive thing to do. So let's say I'm going to turn off this ridiculous looking. If I turn down the world opacity, it's just the light, but no, I don't see the forest. So imagine I say I like this angle. This is fantastic. I want the camera to be at this angle. So there's a couple things we have to be aware of. If I go to view here, oh, again, I press N and I go to view. I have at the very top the focal length of the camera. It's an imaginary camera, digital camera. And this is the lens of the camera. like it's as if it's a camera. Now, a 50 millimeter lens is kind of a medium lens. It's not wide angle and it's not long. If I go to a smaller number, you notice it goes farther away, but that's not what I want to show you. If I zoom in now, it is looking like it's through a fisheye lens. It's looking like it's distorted. That's because this is now a wide lens, a wide angle lens. And if I go close on something with a wide angle lens, it gets distorted. Sometimes you might want that if it's like an action thing. But I don't really want that now. So I'm going to put it back to 50. And let's say that we want this to be a 50. Okay, so great. So that's all. That's the lens of the camera that we're looking at while we're working on it. Not the real camera, but our work camera. So I'm going to get rid of this. So to set the camera to exactly the right angle, I can do a couple things, but one thing I can do is go view, camera, align view, align active camera to view. And if I press this, suddenly there's gonna be a frame around the image. Now, this is what the camera is seeing. Now you notice that it's the same view, but it's kind of cropped, it's cut off. To fix this, click on camera, and now you can actually move the camera while still seeing what your image is going to look like. So if I move it to the right, it moves to the left because it's actually moving the camera. So let's say that I say, okay, now it's centered. Now I want to zoom it back. Keeping on the camera, I press G, and I move my middle mouse button, and now I zoom in and out. And this is how I basically center the image that I want to. So now this is what the camera is going to render. So if I go back to render, it's still going to look very dark, but the angle will be correct. Render image. It always takes a few seconds for it to render, and there'll be some. But now at least it's the right angle. But there's no light. So that's very strange. We got to fix that. Okay. There are many ways to light something in Blender. But what we're going to do is I actually want to use exactly the same forest light in the render engine. And this is something that bothered me and I couldn't figure out how to do it, and there were no videos about this at all. So now finally there's a video here explaining how to get the same lighting in the regular workspace as you do in the render. So to do that, it's a bit complicated, but bear with me. First thing I'm going to do is I actually uploaded something for you guys. Well, we'll go with it. We'll put in the forest lighting. If I click this, this is the world properties. This is not about the model. It's about the whole general environment, and that includes the lighting of the global lighting. So I press this, and you have all of this stuff, and you don't know what any of it means. But if I go into this world tab and I press this button, color, it opens up a tab. What this is actually saying is this is the color of the lighting around it. So I press that, I'll go back. I pressed wherever I am, dum bum bum dum. I press world, now I'm here, and I press color. And then I go, you would never think about this. Then I go to this environment texture. This is where we're actually going to upload an HDRI. So I press this, and now I can actually load different lighting situations into the real render engine. So first of all, I actually uploaded one for you guys on Google Classroom. Let's go download it. Dum-da-dum, Google Classroom. Go back to that thing that I had from before, and the one that I uploaded is called Comfy Cafe. The Comfy Cafe. So if I download this, probably will be zipped. It's a pretty big file. This is the same. This is the background and stuff that I use for that picture. Okay, it's fine. It's not zipped or anything. Go back to Blender, and I'm going to open that thing. Open, and the Comfy Cafe. All right, now you don't see anything, but that's because I'm not on the render engine. If I go here, hey, finally we have lighting. Before it was all black. Before it looked like this, but now I actually have a lighting scene. I have a background, which I may or may not use, and I actually have light. I'm going to put this at 1, and now I actually have, this weird scene, and you don't have to see any of this if you don't want to. If you don't want to see any of this, if you just want to have the light, here's what you do. go to this little camera setting, render, and go down where it says film. Again, this took me days to figure this out. So once again, I go down to the camera, I go where it says film, and I click transparent. And now it's keeping the lighting, but it's not actually keeping this background. So you could use this to, for example, Photoshop that cone onto some background that you want. Or you could make a background. But for now, we're just going to keep this weird sort of background. One thing I want to do is how do I adjust the rotation of this background? Like what if I want to keep the cone in the right position but move around the background? Aha. Another thing you wouldn't think of. Go to the shading. There. All right. So before we were doing all this shading with the cone, like we had all these nodes and everything like that. And that was because we're shading objects. And that's this thing over here says object. But if I go to world, I now have that image that I put on before. That's the Comfy Cafe. It's hiding in this other tab in the shader. So that's the shaders for the objects. And this is the shader for the world. This is where the HDRIs are going to go. Now, so far, I can't control the angle. But remember what I did before. I had the node wrangler. So if I press Control T, now I get the same nodes I had before where I can control the actual rotation of the world. So if I do this, now I can rotate the environment in the back and not actually move my cone. My cone's still in the same place, right? It's still there, but I'm moving around my background and also my lighting. So I can move the lighting in the way that I want it, where I think it looks the best. So I don't know. Let's say it looks. I think it looks amazing over here. And I usually use the Z-axis for this. Okay, maybe something like that. I'll move it a little bit more. All right, sure. Great. I think that's kind of where I put it last time, actually, because the lighting was okay. Now, so far it's floating in space. I'm going to make the world's quickest table. This is what I did before. To make a table, I'm just going to literally put a plane there. So I'm going to click Control A, plane, and now a plane appears there because it's at the world origin. Scaling this up, GZ, I'm going to move it down where it just hits the bottom. Oh, let me do a 1 there so I'm no. Move it up just so it's touching the bottom of the cone. Okay, I know I would, I could spend a lot of time on this table. It's literally just a white plane for now. And now at least I have some kind of a little bit more, some kind of a background, and I have a lighting situation. Now I can also put other lights. You notice that there's actually a light in this scene. So I'm going to just, for now, I'm going to turn off the light that I put on. I'm just going to keep that light there. It's like a spotlight. So let's see where all these lights are. First of all, let me take off this reference. Okay, the light is over there. If I go to the top view, you see that the light is behind and to the right. So if I press G, I can actually just move the light in the same way I move anything. So I'm moving it like that. Maybe I'll make it like sort of in front, and I'll move it down a little bit. Okay, maybe I'll move it even more to the front. So I'm just moving the light as if I would move any object. I want to move it back, GY, and I can check. And it's just kind of giving me a side light, an additional side light, maybe like that. Okay, now I'm going to put back the light that I had before. 1. And what happened to my, oh, there we go. So I'll go with the light, without the light. So the lights will be more like that. Okay, cool. Do I need the light? Yeah, it's a little bit better with the light. Okay. Um, you can see the light, by the way, if I zoom out there. No, you can't really see it. Sorry, one. Okay. But at least now you see that there's a light. Now I'm going to just render this image. Render image. And before I do that, let's go look at the settings. So we're going to be a lot more about rendering after. For now, I'm going to keep the rendering engine at EV. I'm going to keep the render at 64. You don't know what any of these things mean, but you will at some point. So I'm just going to render this. And hopefully everything's okay and that we don't see that reference image. Okay, so now if I want, I could save this image. Uncle Moishi, I'll just save it over the same thing. And now we have a picture of an ice cream cone. A couple little things just to check. Um, if I go back to my angle, I might make my strength a little bit smaller than that because it's very bright and it doesn't give much shadow or anything interesting. My light over here, I want to make sure that I have a shadow of some sort. This controls how the shadow goes, and I do want to have some shadow. I'm going to put contact shadows. Yeah, okay. I'm just going to retake the render. When you get to the point where you're rendering stuff, there's a lot of screwing around. You're checking something and you're fixing it and you're redoing it, and there's a lot of that. All right, so great. I think my image is amazing, and I would save it, and I could crop it after and do whatever I want. So that's just a basic sense of how to actually use the rendering in Blender. And of course, it's going to be a lot more about that. Once again, just to tell you, if I didn't want the whole background, if I just wanted the light, I would go to Film and click Transparent, and then my render would have a transparent background. That means I could composite that over a background that I like. So I would basically take a picture of this, and you'd have this whole part would be transparent, and I could basically Photoshop it over a background that I like, instead of having the background from the HDR. Okay,